So I think what we will do is, if it's okay with everyone, we'll kind of start with the things that we love about Spencer, kind of what makes Spencer special and what we hear families say that they love as well, just so you can kind of get an understanding of that. And then we'll kind of leave it up for a Q&A session if you guys have any questions after hearing some of that stuff, if that's okay. So I can go ahead and start, I guess. The thing that I love about, well, there are multiple things, but one of the biggest things that I love about Spencer is the community feeling that comes along with our school. This is actually only the second school I've taught at. I've been teaching for 8 years. The other school was in CPS as well, but I feel like every school that I've visited, or I have other colleagues that work at other schools, they talk about how it's kind of segmented, or there can be like almost cliques within just grade level bands or subject bands, and the kids kind of only really know the kids that are in their class, and that's it. And I think one thing that's awesome about Spencer is we really have a pretty big community feeling. We, up until this past year, obviously, we had like community meetings with the lower school where all of the lower school would get together and talk about some character strengths and be able to kind of give shout outs to each other about that stuff. And I think from what I've heard from families and students, everyone really feels like they're a part of the Spencer community and all of their voices really matter, which means a lot to me, because I feel like as a teacher at Spencer, my voice really matters as well with administration. They're very open to hearing new ideas and things like that. Like, students have started clubs that they were interested in, and they just came to me or another teacher and said, hey, I'm really interested in having this club. Can we see if that would be okay? And most of the time, administration lets it happen as long as there's a staff member to be able to kind of staff that club. So it's really cool. There's a lot of input that comes from family and students and teachers to kind of make Spencer what it is. So that's something I really love about Spencer. Ms. Berardi, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I'll kind of work on that. So like Mr. G was saying, our community is very small, so it's a very unique environment compared to other schools. Everyone knows each other. Teachers know students from all grade levels. The students that I don't even teach in 3-4 already kind of have a relationship with me before they get to my class. And then they will continue to see Mr. G while they're in 5th and 6th grade. So kind of the community feel, the relationship, the support, it never goes away whether they're your teacher or not. And that's something very unique, because my students feel comfortable talking to someone who's not even their teacher anymore, because those relationships and bonds are already there, because we're such a small community that even the students' voices feel heard. Additionally, our teaching philosophy at Spencer, it's very hands-on, exploratory. We really like having students doing projects that they can apply to their real life. For example, like our math teacher does a bunch of different things within units. So for her volume unit, she'll do where students try to create packages that have the same volume but less surface area to reduce the carbon footprint. And she does a bunch of really neat things where, when studying rates, students have to pretend to go to a grocery store and figure out to compare the different brands to one another to see how their actual unit rates are different. So there's a lot of activities that kind of take students almost out of the classroom and make connections. And that's a big point for our teachers here, as well as giving students meaningful work. So students, there's a kind of a misconception that we don't give homework. It's not necessarily that we don't give homework, it's that we don't give busy work. We will only assign students things that are meaningful outside of class. So they're not going to be overloaded with work. But when they do get work, it's going to be meaningful, because a lot of the instruction and support happens at school. And if we're giving them our full attention, they're giving us our full attention. We really like that they are able to be kids outside of school and explore things outside and be social. So they're given only meaningful work outside, which I think sometimes can be bombarded with busy work. So that's one thing I really enjoy, because as a kid, I like to kind of explore things on my own outside of school. So I think it's only fair that they get that same experience.
Yeah, and kind of working off of that, I think one thing that I love as well is that not only are kids doing a lot of project-based learning, but they're also able to have flexible learning areas. So a lot of kids will work in the classrooms. Some kids like to work out. We have a courtyard area that's in the middle of our school. We can just open on the first floor. classrooms, we can just open our door out to that courtyard area and they can work out there. A lot of kids, there are like learning centers in between our classrooms where there are like stools and this, I guess like a countertop with a TV, and the kids can plug in their devices there and be able to work collaboratively at that center. There are spaces called ELA spaces, which are these extra learning areas that are kind of like it's kind of like an open classroom. And kids can go work down there, and there's a dry erase board, as we have a whole wall that's a dry erase board. They can go down there and work together. So being able to kind of have the flexibility to work on projects in different areas and with different students is something that I know that the kids really enjoy as well. So I think just having that flexibility is really key. And yes, so students all throughout Spencer, actually, all of Spencer is departmentalized. So all students in grades 3 through 6 actually have 4 different core teachers. So Ms. Berardi and I are both the science teachers. I'm for 3 and 4, she's for 5 and 6. And each one of the students in grades 3 to 6 will have a reading teacher, a math teacher, a social studies teacher, and a science teacher. And so throughout the day, they get to see all of those different teachers. And one thing I love about Spencer as well is that all of the teachers collaborate together to be able to do cross-curricular activities and projects with each other. So kids that, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to build off that real quickly. So like he was saying, because we do have like 4 content teachers for each grade level, it's really easy for us to do projects across content areas. So a lot of time science will pair up with math. And a lot of the times we do projects where we'll just combine classes basically for 2 bells, and they'll be working on a project that relates to both their math and science classroom. So it kind of is really important because it shows students that they are very interconnected, and also gets them working with new students and different peers kind of throughout the day. As well, Mr. G and I have our science bells blocked out to be the same time. So I have 3rd grade, or he has 3rd grade when I have 5th grade, and he has 4th grade when I have 6th grade, and those contents match up. So we can do across grade level projects as well, to show how those foundations do build as you get higher up in school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's something that we probably should have gotten in the beginning, but so we do get that question a lot actually from parents as well, just asking if the curriculum is different at Spencer. And I know for our 3-4 team, and I'm pretty sure for 5-6, we all use the district created kind of like pacing guides and curriculum. We just have the ability to be able to go deeper into that understanding. So taking the curriculum that is given to us by the district and being able to take the understanding that the kids would get from that and do project-based learning with that, or be able to innovate something or create something using that information. So we follow a similar curriculum to the district, but we have kind of some add-ons and deeper ways of going into that curriculum that the other schools just don't really have the time or ability to be able to do.
I can answer that second question, Jason, if you'd like. Okay, so basically, gifted versus exceptional. Our students not necessarily are always grouped in their gifted versus exceptional test scores, just because a lot of the times their test scores don't also show what they do in class. A lot of our students can be really good test takers, but they're not as motivated in class, or vice versa. So we really group them based on what we see in class, and keep in mind those test scores. And then how we differentiate would be what we give them. Whether we give them something that dives a little deeper than their peers who may not be at the same academic level. We really just differentiate within the classroom, within instruction, giving them choices, maybe giving our more gifted students maybe 3 things they have to do, whereas our exceptional are given 2. So it's covering the same content and just maybe not in depth as much compared to one another. So we don't necessarily group them by class, but in the work they're given, we do try to make sure that we are challenging them based on their level.
Yeah, and the same class usually kind of goes throughout their schedule together during the day. But what is interesting is you'll see that from class to class, they're actually grouped differently in small groups and in project groups, because the kids will perform differently in a reading class versus a math class or science or social studies. So each teacher differentiates within their own subject area, which is really great. So the kids not only get to make sure that they're working within their ability and what the teachers think their ability is as well, but also they get to communicate and socialize with other kids in the class, which is something Mr. Covey kind of led us into, is that we have very, very smart little humans in our school. One thing that is very interesting, especially for us at the lower level, is a lot of I'm teaching third grade, and third grade is the first grade that's offered in Spencer. So all of the kids in third grade are coming from all different locations in Cincinnati, which is something I absolutely love. I mean, we have kids from the east side and the west side that would have never met each other that are now best friends. And to kind of support, especially in third grade, I think it's a little bit easier sometimes in fourth grade, but in third grade especially, we help to try to support them socially and emotionally by using a program that is through the Cincinnati Public Schools advisory class. So we use that. And then what's that other program? Do you know, Ms. Berardi, the other social
Second
emotional?
Step?
Yes, thank you. So we use Second Step as well, which is another social emotional learning curriculum. And that kind of helps the kids really start to communicate. But I think a big thing is how our classes are set up. So we have a lot of student choice to be able to kind of show us with assessments or with projects, a lot of student interest driven projects and things like that as well. And so being able for those kids to be able to kind of link up on things that they like together. And also we are really big on communication in Spencer. So learning how to communicate with one another. So using those, or kind of teaching those kids those skills to have those communication skills go up a little bit and advance throughout the third and fourth grade is a big part of helping them socially, emotionally as well. Ms. Berardi, do you want to hit that last one?
Yes, I was going to answer that question. So kids have their 4 content classes in advisory and then a specials they go to each day. So it's a total of 6 classes. Their specials then changes each day. So they have a rotation. So they'll see every single one of their specials teachers in that 1 week time period. So they'll just go to, like right now, they go to advisory, and then they go through 1 academic block, a lunch and a recess with specials, and then 3 academic blocks in the afternoon. And that's just to ensure that we have full hour blocks with each class. So that's kind of how the schedule worked out. We thought it was really important to have students for a whole hour uninterrupted, so we could really get, like, for science labs done. So they have 4 academic blocks, a specials, and then an advisory block.
And there are 2 classes per grade for grades 3 to 6. And it differs with how many kids are in each class. Usually there are between like 15 and, would you say, like 25 or 26 kids in each one of the classes. This year has been a little bit weird.
5th and 6th grade normally has more kids than 3 and 4, I would say.
Yeah. So there is not right now a GPA requirement to continue in Spencer for grades 3 to 6. There is one in grades 7 and up. There is a very well laid out, I guess, kind of
grade
a plan.
Maintenance.
Yeah, a grade maintenance plan where kids, it's a tier-based system. If kids are not performing up to what the standards are for them and for everyone at Spencer, then they are put into this grade maintenance plan, and they continue to check in with teachers. There are other interventions that are put in depending on the situation. But after a while, if you're an upper grade student and your grades have not advanced or gotten any better over time through that grade maintenance plan, then there is a discussion on whether or not Spencer is the best place for that student to succeed. Right now, there is not one of those grade maintenance plans in 3rd through 6th grade, but we are looking at maybe introducing something similar to that in 5th and 6th grade so they can get ready to go to upper school with that plan, so that it's not kind of jarring to them when they get to 7th grade.
Jason, I can answer these other ones.
Okay, go ahead.
Next couple ones. So we have a question about after school clubs and before school clubs. Obviously, right now that looks very different for us. But typically, yes, we do have a lot of after school clubs. There's like a science club where even like an outside source comes in and helps the students do different experiments. We did have a chess club. We did have yoga at one point. There is Taekwondo, I believe it is, in the mornings. So we do offer Brain Bowl. We do offer a lot of clubs typically. If any student really is passionate about something, normally they can convince a teacher to monitor that club with them. So that's kind of a very cool opportunity that they do have at Spencer. Everyone's really willing to try new things and start new clubs.
There are like drama clubs for upper school.
Yeah. Anime club.
There's what is that? The representatives for each grade. What's that called? Why can't I think of that?
It's something like student government.
Yeah, the student council. There's actually representatives from grades 3 all the way up to what will be 12. So that's really good as well. I see that there was a question. Mr. Colby was talking about projects. So some of the projects for grades 3 and 4, I asked some of the teachers to tell me some of the interesting things that they do, and we usually hear about them from the students, but I know, so in my class, the 4th graders, one of the big concepts that we go over is the reshaping of the Earth's surface. So they learned about weathering, erosion, deposition, how it's all changed over time, things like that. And I incorporated Columbia Parkway and the landslides on Columbia Parkway into that lesson. So the students I gave them like a baking dish kind of and some sand and a Hot Wheels car, and then gave them some supplies, and they had to try to make something that would help the landslides with Columbia Parkway. So kind of connecting what they're learning into real life situations. I know like some of the other projects have been things like we've had architecture projects where people from UC actually come in and work with the 3rd and 4th graders on that. In math, they have quarterly projects which include creating a board game, creating a menu for a restaurant, vacation planning, and they can actually create their own project to teach their classmates. I have a quarterly independent research project where the kids love that one, where they can research on anything that is related to science, and it helps them to understand how to research, the best practices with researching, and how to present that in the best way, so it's helping with all of those skills. So yeah, those are some of the different projects that we do in 3rd and 4th grade. And then the outdoor space. So there isn't. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just figured you were talking to take a break.
I
can talk about. So we do have a playground at Spencer. It's relatively new. I want to say it got put in 2 years ago. And then we also have a huge field next to our building where students like to play football, soccer, anything you can imagine. And then additionally, like Mr. G was saying, there's a courtyard in the center of our school that kids like to eat lunch out there. And then I also have a courtyard kind of attached to just my classroom that kids like to go out during class to learn, or even during lunch or breakfast in the morning. So there are a lot of different outdoor spaces that are really utilized during different points throughout the day.
Yeah. So I'm seeing something about testing for exceptional versus gifted. So just as an overall note, once a student is tested as gifted, then they are always labeled as gifted. So that label does not go away. And along the lines with the gifted program, we don't, like we said kind of earlier, there's not necessarily like this class is going to be all gifted programming and this class is for the exceptional kids. There's a lot of kind of intermingling with that, and there's differentiation within that. So what will happen is a student can be tested gifted at any time. I mean, you could go and have a student tested privately multiple times, and they can be tested gifted at any of those times, and that's okay. But if they're in Spencer, then it's not like they would move from this specific class to another specific class, because the teacher would be doing differentiation within that classroom to be able to promote that child's learning.
And just to work off of that, a lot of the times testing we see so many kids that test gifted, but when they're in the classroom, they're completely different than one another. There's such a wide range of students who test gifted that they all require different things in the classroom. Maybe they need something more support, like a student who scored exceptional, or maybe they need something that less support because they are showing those gifted skills in that academic class. It really just depends on a student versus student basis. So we don't really separate them by just those test scores. We kind of put more into it in terms of what we actually see in the classroom, how they engage with others, who they work well with, things like that before we decide how to group them in their actual classes they travel in.
Yep.
And then I saw something about in-person tours. So Mr. G created a online tour where he walked around the building. That gives you a really good look of what the building looks like, where the classrooms are set up. I'm not entirely sure when we will be allowed to have visitors in the building. I think that's more at a district level right now. I don't even think our principal really has a choice on who she can allow in and out of the building just because of COVID right now. But I'm sure as soon as we are able to have families into the building, it'll be sent out.
And then I see something about the integration of the third grade classes. So in a normal world, usually the third and fourth grade classes will actually eat lunch together and they will go to recess together. So they actually are integrating with not only the other third grade class, but the fourth grade class as well, which is really awesome because usually those bands of classes really kind of bond together. The same for fifth and sixth grade. They would go to recess together and go to lunch together. And that's the majority. And then breakfast, and then any clubs or anything like that. Those are the majority of times that the different classes will be integrated together because of the class size. They just move through the classes together, usually. So
right. And to build off of that, my students that are in fifth grade now used to be paired up with the students that are in fourth grade now. So there is that intermingling across even teacher groups because they were once with the now fourth graders. So there's a lot of kind of relationships that are built across even the entire 3 through 6th grade just because they work so closely together.
Yeah. Mr. Colby, do you know about the lottery stuff? Yes, you do need to enter the lottery since it's a magnet school. It's the same as going to a Montessori school or anything like that. Oh, speaking of that, the people on the 3-4 team are certified Montessori, which is pretty awesome because, and there are a lot of certified Montessori teachers all throughout our school, which is amazing because I like to think of Spencer as being kind of the perfect marriage of Montessori teaching and just like a standard teaching style, and kind of blend those together, and add some project-based learning stuff, and that's Spencer, I think.
Yes, it's a very good blend.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, as Mr. Colby says, they suggest having test scores reviewed to make sure that the student is eligible before going into the lottery.
Mr. G, can I speak to that for just a moment?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. The lottery process for Cincinnati Public Schools has a caveat. The caveat is 1 application per student per year. So as often as we can, we would really like to help families by having their child's test scores reviewed prior to applying in the lottery system. That way they know for sure. The lottery system solely holds a space. And then once the district sends us the results of the lottery, it's at that point the families have to turn into us all the necessary documentation, including test scores. So instead of having someone wait months to find out for sure if their child is eligible, we offer, to review those scores ahead of time so that families know for sure. And we don't have enough data yet. We are still so new. This is our 4th year, and our 4th year is a pandemic. So we really don't, unfortunately, have enough data yet to begin to predict how many kids are eligible versus ineligible. We do have a good number of families that have applied every year since we've been opened where their students are ineligible. So even if they receive a space, And then test scores are reviewed. If they are ineligible, that space opens up to the next person on the list. And so we go through the lottery list that is sent to us by the district and the entire waiting list as well, if we have space available. I hope that helps.
Awesome, thank you.
I can talk about CRC. So typically, not a COVID year. Yes, we had CRC in our building actually. So it would be with the students before school and after school until a certain time where the parents are ready to pick them up. So we do offer that after school kind of care. Additionally, there are clubs after school, like we had mentioned earlier, that students can attend for sometimes it's a half hour after school, sometimes it's an hour after school, it just depends. And then on top of our athletics that we have going on typically.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm really excited about is I am the elementary basketball coach. So that's something that just got entered into the district a couple years ago. And we're one of the schools that has an elementary basketball team. So that's something I'm really proud of and I love it.
Drop off and pick up this year has changed a little bit just due to how we have to stagger buses now because we can't have as many kids on buses. So our schedule's a little different. When we return to blended in February, our drop off time is around like 9:25 to 9:45 when kids are getting dropped off, and then pickup is around 4:30.
That's in for this time. For next year, if it's a standard year, I believe the drop-off time or school started at 9 o'clock, correct? At 9:15.
Ended at 4.
Yeah, Mr. Colby, do you know the drop-off times?
I would stress if it's a standard year, since we really don't know, what's in our future here. The safest way to see it would be the school would more than likely open between 9 and 9:30. And then run until 4 or 4:30. We are the latest starting school in the district. Some of you may know that other schools also piloted coming into school later, like Walnut Hills is starting later as well. So once we know what normal is, we'll be able to give exact times and know how the busing is going to run as well for next year.
Are there any additional questions? You can just raise your hand. You can type it in the chat. Any questions you have for us?
Oh, awesome. Well, if you have any more questions, feel free to email the school or email us directly. That's okay too. And we can try to get any answers out to you. Also, you can visit our website and look at the awesome tours that the best 3rd and 4th grade science teacher in the district put up there. And other than that,
there's also videos about teachers on there, right? Teacher profiles and stuff.
Yeah, we actually have all of the bios for the teachers on there as well if you want to get to know some of the other teachers as well. All right, well, thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for coming. We hope to see you in our future.
Yeah. Go Wolfpack. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.